Beyond Technical. Competitive gaming.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Technical. Now, for those of you who are fans of the show, I realize I'm missing for a tiny little bit here, and it's probably going to happen again for a few more weeks. I do plan on bringing the show back full-time. Some real-life stuff has gotten in the way. If all goes to plan, it's going to be awesome, excellent news for the show coming up. But it does mean you're going to have to put up with a little bit of a hiatus on my end. Now, today we're going to do something a tiny bit different. So for those of you who have not seen the show before, Beyond Technical is generally just a show where I showcase or play some games, usually at a pretty high level, and try and show stuff off. Most of the time it ends up being very tutorial based, but today we're going to do something, I suppose there's some tutorial built into this, but mostly just a little bit of a gameplay demonstration. So without further ado, we're going to jump into it because I'm actually playing right now as I'm doing the intro. So let's just click on this little button over here, and ta-da, we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV. Now, Final Fantasy XIV is clearly an MMO, and it actually, I kind of wanted to show it off because I've been having quite a bit of fun with this lately. Now, the game actually feels, I'm going to go ahead and say a little bit like vanilla WoW. It's very, there's some challenge to it. It's not very hand-holdy, as opposed to WoW, which has slowly kind of shifted to a more casual route. Whereas this game tends to be a little bit more difficult still, but it's not slow and grindy like anybody who tried to play, say, Final Fantasy XI might remember. And the combat is a lot faster as well, which actually makes it feel more like a North American MMO with the Asian MMO kind of challenge involved in it. The fights are really fun. It's a pretty cool game. It's a very pretty game too, although, you know, with all the flashing lights and jumping right into a level 50 dungeon, you might not get a full chance of really seeing that just yet. Either way, I thought I'd kind of give a bit of a demo and my own opinions of the game because I've been playing it a little bit lately, and I have not been playing a lot of Street Fighter lately, so I figured I wanted to get at least one more Beyond Technical video out, even though I do not have a lot of time to be pumping out a ton of them right now. But as I said, don't worry, keep your eyes peeled. I've got some cool stuff in store for you guys in the future. I'm not going to reveal exactly what that is yet, but keep your fingers crossed. If my plans work out, I hope to have some very awesome content, as always, free and delivered to you guys for your viewing pleasure. So, before I go rambling on about that and give something away, let's get back to the topic at hand of Final Fantasy here. So as you can see, I am pretty much amazing. My earrings may not be the most manly thing in the world, but I do have a mustache, so that counts for a lot. And we're doing a dungeon called Amador Keep. Yeah, Amdapor Keep. Sorry. Now, just so you're aware, so if you want to watch a specific class or you want to have any information, this is a black mage. That's what this little fireball symbol means in the top left corner here. This is a bard, which is basically just an archer that plays a couple of little songs. He has a little symbol over here, and this is a white mage. You can tell by that little symbol there, and I am playing a paladin. That is the tank of the group. Let's make sure everybody's ready. They seem to be all doing their thing. Normally people stand over here for this boss. For anybody who wants to actually use this as some sort of Amador Keep guide, I think you should have a pretty decent time figuring out what's going on and how to do this dungeon. Well, I give you a bit of my opinion on the game and just kind of ramble as we go. So first thing you're going to notice is that I'm a tank, and tanking is actually kind of difficult in this game. It's very easy. You see right now he's aggroed onto the black mage, which means I don't have enough threat on him. Now, players are pretty used to MMOs being very threat simplistic in terms of how tanking works. Now in this game, it's not overly simple. You actually have to generate a lot of threat. So if you just go all out on a mob before he even runs to the tank, he's going to have a very hard time holding him. Now I need to be popping some better cooldowns here and doing a little better job. But you get the idea of tanking is actually a challenge, which is nice because I'm very used to the World of Warcraft days where tanking was quite simple. They made all of your moves generate so much threat that you never really had any problems with it. The other things that's kind of cool in my opinion is you can actually line of sight some stuff. So this is a neat boss because if you tank him by this pillar and you manage to hold your threat and he does stay on you, he's going to shoot these lightning shots. You're going to see this here, this Void Thunder 3 in the middle of the screen. So if you actually step around the pillar, you can pretty much mitigate all the damage from these spells. If you move back quickly enough as well, you won't end up blocking your DPS's line of sight from him. Now this fight's a little bit tough because you have to kind of tank these golems while you go, and as I said, threat is very difficult, especially because I'm a very freshly new geared level 50, so I don't have a lot of items to make me do a lot of damage or pull a lot of threats. I'm going to get hit by this Void Thunder, which I think is worth it because I didn't know that was coming. And we basically just cycle down golems. Now there's another strategy of this guy where you can hide in the tree and kind of cheat it. I don't really think that's worth it. I believe you can get banned for that, so I'm not advocating that as a strat to use at all. But if you are struggling on this, I have heard of a few players hopping in that tree and making it quite simple. So I should probably get back to dodging these Void Thunders. You can see they hit pretty hard. You can also stun them, which gives you 4 or 5 seconds of basically not taking any damage. I'm just waiting for that healer to kind of catch up on me here. And the other thing that's kind of cool about this game is it does have a built-in threat meter. In this top left, you can see I've got max threat, and then there's all these other little bars showing how much aggro everybody else has managed to generate. So let's just break that Void Thunder and then come on back. So little kind of stuff like that is kind of cool. As you can see, there's a lot of AoE indicators in this game as well, which is a little bit different than what you're probably typically used to from most MMOs. This party is also pretty solid, so you'll see we're killing this pretty quickly. These golem ads aren't popping up overly fast, and that's kind of nice because if you do this with a weaker party, you will actually fight a lot of these golems. So let's get this guy stunned so he stops killing everybody, and let's see if we can't pull their aggro on this. Oh, never mind. He's already down. We don't even need to really get that next golem stuck me for too long at all. At level 50, for anybody who's curious about that, that doesn't really look very much. No, that's not better at all. Pass. Should probably be greeting that. At level 50, back to what I was saying though, the method of Endgame, because I feel like the leveling process in this game is kind of grindy. It does take quite a long time. You have to get multiple classes leveled up to make your main class max out. I'm not going to go through an entire breakdown of every little system in the game today. I'm just going to kind of give you a bit of a feature, but it does take a long time. You end up doing what's called fates, which are like group quests that just kind of spawn on the map at random times, and you do a lot of fates, which gets you actually a pretty significant amount of experience. I did a lot of quests because on my server I was one of the first 50s, I believe. So when you're one of the first 50s, there's not a lot of people doing these random quests that pop up. And the questing is not too bad for experience. The fates aren't too bad for experience, and then you'll do some random other little stuff like this duty finder has these things that pop up called these guild hests. They're nice for experience. You also have one system that I thought was pretty cool called hunts. And what they do is they give you little ranks. You have to go kill little ladybugs in the beginning, and it kind of ramps up as you go, like comes cactars, some pretty typical Final Fantasy stuff. And you get actually quite a bit of experience for doing those. As you can see, the reward is 40,000 experience for the highest tier, plus 17,000 for this hunt, 17,500 for that hunt, etc., etc. So hunts are actually a really nice way of experience as well, which I think the game did a decent job of breaking up the monotony of leveling by giving you a few different options of what to do to generate your experience. Now, I'm going to want to pop a cooldown here so I don't know I'm dying. Back to what I was saying though, let's try and get that guy back on me. So as you can see, the cool thing that I really do like about tanking is the challenge behind it. I'm sure once I get some better gear, a little higher tier weapon maybe, it'll become a little bit easier again, as it wasn't too tough when I had appropriate gear for the early things I was tanking. But as everybody's DPS is going up, and you do cross-server dungeons, so even though I'm one of the earlier 50s on my server, many of the players on other servers have a lot higher gear than me already. So you need to basically be aware of that, and then what you do is you want to kind of balance this threat-o-meter and make sure that you are the highest number on all of these mobs. So you'll see I'm jumping back and forth a lot, which you don't generally do in a lot of other games. You just kind of like hit an AoE button over and over. If you try and spam that in this game and someone's DPSing something, it is not going to work. So anyways, after your kind of grindy experience with levels, which you are allowed to play every class simultaneously, on one character. So you see I'm a 50 Gladiator, I'm a 24 Conjurer. You need to be level 30 and 15 on your secondary class to make your primary class. For Paladins, that would be a 50 or 30 Gladiator and a 15 Conjurer. I'm leveling up Conjurer slowly so that I can... Oh, I need to pop these guys here. Leveling up Conjurer slowly because you gain cross-class abilities, which I will show you here. So you gain these additional skills. You can go into the Conjurer and you can see that I have things like Cure, Raise, and Protect. So I can actually cast those skills even though they're not Gladiator skills because they're cross-class abilities. So that's kind of how that works, and that's why you're going to want to level up your secondary stuff. And it gets kind of frustrating because sometimes, my Conjurer to get a new ability called Stone Skin requires level 34, which takes a significant amount of time grinding out more levels. So there is a bit of a grind to this game, but I'm going to honestly tell you, I think it's worth it. It's the most fun MMO I've played in a very, very long time, and I've tried pretty much all of them. I played a lot of WoW and got very high-end in rating back in that game. I believe the best I ever did for my own claim to fame was our guild was 19th best in the world coming out of Wrath of the Lich King, at which point I kind of quit the game and stopped playing nearly as much. So I've been playing at a pretty high tier level for most MMOs, and I kind of know my stuff pretty well and figure out the math behind the game, and this one's looking pretty fun. One of the really cool things is your ability to dodge and avoid a lot of attacks and abilities. Other than that, the thing you're going to probably notice if you've been paying any attention to this cooldown timer at the bottom is how long this global cooldown is. I believe it's a 2.5 second global cooldown, which I'm going to mention simply because it really does change the way that you play this game. Most games like WoW had, I believe, a 1.5 second global, which was a lot faster. So you can see this one is a lot slower, and yeah, as I said, greenies. This one's a lot slower, and it kind of slows the game down a little bit. The other thing is that you're not going to be playing the same style of bursty giant number damage, so you're not going to be spiking nearly as heavily as you were when you play something like, say, WoW. And tanks are going to die a lot slower, but because your reaction time is going to be a little bit slower with these long globals, it kind of adds to the challenge in terms of decision making instead of just pure gutsy reaction time, or a lot of the time just it came down to very much luck. Did you have a heal already prepped when that tank just got chunked for all of his health? So I can tend to like this system a lot more because it makes positioning and mana management your prime focus, as opposed to just kind of hitting the button over and over and spamming your max rank heal and hoping for the best. You need to choose your different ranks, which is basically like Cure 1, 2, and 3 on a white mage, so that you can kind of balance out your mana and not just burn through everything instantly by spamming your highest rank moves. Choosing out or figuring out how to balance your mana is very important, and then you can use stuff like bards have abilities like to play a song, gives you AoE mana, which kind of helps to alleviate that as well. The thing that I want to show you most of all, because I'm gonna film this video and probably ramble on until the end of the dungeon, which may take a little while. I'm not too sure. The next boss is kind of cool, and I know how to skip a few of these packs. But the reason that I want to show you guys this is because I hope this will give you a decent idea of what it's like to play the game at the top, because I've had a few friends get a little frustrated while they're leveling because they feel it's so grindy. And get these guys to pop up. And I wanted to kind of demonstrate, like, this game, this is the fun part to me. I don't think leveling up is fun in any game. I never pay attention to the story. I never really do much to kind of like make that process take a long time. I tend to just hammer it out with the fastest, most sometimes boring system in the game, because it gets the job done, and I do not enjoy leveling all that much, which is weird because I do enjoy MMOs. But that's where the endgame comes into play. The reason this is one of the best MMOs I've played in a long time is because it has an endgame already. So what you can do is once you hit 50, generally your functions in terms of what you're going to grind out to kind of gear up and prepare yourself is you want to be able to do these hard mode raids. So I'll show you these. Now let's just taunt that guy while we're doing this. Where is he going? Well, never mind. You run away from the tank, he does not save you. That is the rule. Everybody should know by now. You come back to the tank, he might think about it. So back to what we were talking about, this nice duty finder thing here. What you do with the duty finders, you can show, or I'll show you these trials. Now, these are actually some of the bosses that you fight in the game, and the trials are really, really cool fights. What you do is you unlock hard mode trials at level 50. So there's Ifrit, Garuda, which is a bird type thing that does a lot of wind moves, and Titan, which is a big rock. I'm sure anybody who's played any Final Fantasy games knows Ifrit, as he's a pretty typical character, although Titan and Garuda have been a little bit different, and they're not quite as common and the common household names as Ifrit. So these three fights are really, really cool. There's a lot of functions to them. I'm going to say right now off the top that as a fresh geared 50, I beat everything except Titan with no problems at all. I've not had a problem with any of the dungeons yet. And primarily what you're going to be moving on to doing is, let's just pull these guys, I think we have to. You're going to be moving on to a dungeon called Coil. Now the game is very, very new, and they don't have a lot in the end game system yet. However, nobody, as far as I'm aware, has fully cleared Coil, which does give it some credibility in my books as a difficult and challenging end game rating. In WoW, as everybody knows, people cleared those dungeons basically the night of, any time a boss was released, he was killed before the next day. Except for the earlier days when things actually took a long time and people had to kind of struggle their way to the top. So that's something that I personally love, because as anybody who knows that watches the show, you know I love a challenge. Challenging games are my forte. I just can't get enough of them, and this game definitely falls into that category. Now your gear is a little bit important. One of the cool things that I will mention is that, as you can probably see, my character is wearing mostly greens, some kind of grayish items, and the item color system is the same as most MMOs. Green is generally worse than blue, and that goes up to purple items. There's a few pink items you get when you're leveling up that aren't necessarily all that much better, but they are a little bit of a step up from the other two. So there's a little bit of a weird progression system, but generally green, blue, purple is still how this game seems to go. So the first thing you're doing is you're actually saving up points to buy this. It's called Dark Light Gear. Dark Light Gear is going to get your character pretty much ready as it's item level 70, as you can see, which is enough to go and clear Titan, and I believe to do the opening portion of Coil, which gives you... Coil has all these different turns, so there's different turns, and every turn that you beat is going to unlock the next one, and you can save it for the week. So it functions a lot like the old WoW dungeons do. Now, I have yet to actually go into Coil, unfortunately, because I am, as I said, a very fresh level 50. But as I can tell you from the bosses so far and the dungeons, it is a really fun kind of gearing up process. The dungeons are really cool. The bosses drop weapons for all of them. However, you can go and get your runic weapon, which is a little bit more challenging. There's a lot of steps to that quest. I'll let you Google it if you're interested in that. But when you first hit 50, I'm going to suggest you aim for the runic weapon, and you do these dungeons to max out what's called these Tomes of Mythology and get 300 per week, and Tomes of Philosophy, which you can get basically up to 2,000 held at a time. That's going to let you buy pieces of Dark Light Gear with Mythology, and you can use, or with Philosophy, and the Mythology Tomes are going to work for other things. So this boss, just for anybody who's interested in how the actual mechanics of the game are working, this is a wall. He slowly slides towards you, pushing towards the back, which will kill you. So I'm going to go DPS stance, which is called Sword Oath on Paladins, which makes my auto attacks hit harder, and I don't get the 20% damage reduction from the other stance. Tanking this boss isn't overly important, as he really doesn't do a lot of damage. So all you have to kind of do is not stand in these purple things, which for me is a lot of fun. I don't know about anybody else, but if you played World of Warcraft and you did Naxxramas, Hagen's Dance Room was about my favorite raid ever made, which involved you running back and forth to dodge big strips of poison that kind of look like this. Now this game is all about dodging lots and lots of stuff, so everybody needs to be mildly competent so that they can move out of the way of the things that kill you. The other thing this guy's going to do is he's going to cast Repel, which is going to make us all knock back. Now I have a move that makes you not get knocked back, but it doesn't seem to work very well just yet, so I tend to just stand in the middle, because he will knock you off the side and kill you from doing that. The other thing to keep in mind when you're doing, or you're playing an MMO, is for anybody who wants to improve, this, I don't need to go all the way over here, I can actually stand right here, and then it takes just 2 quick steps and you're in the right spot, which kind of mitigates the damage. A lot of players tend to use these visuals and kind of run really far away from them to make sure that they're safe, which is really unnecessary. Just get 1 step outside of the danger zone and you're pretty safe. This game has pretty good danger zones. The hitboxes don't bleed over very much at all, so it's pretty good. The other thing's going to happen is he's going to summon these 2 bees, which I'm probably going to struggle just to tank, but they don't hit too hard, so the DPS should be fine. You know, here comes the bees. So let's try and get some threat on this other bee, get out of this purple stuff as we're tanking around, and get out of there. Not standing that for too long. And let's see if we can't get our DPS to kind of finish these bad boys off so I can get back on this boss here. So as you can see, he's slowly sliding towards this big purple zone at the back, which we do not really want to be standing in. Oh, there goes everybody not paying attention to Repel. And getting knocked off the cliff. Very important. Don't want to have that happen. I'm probably going to have to pop this nice little don't die move. And luckily, we got just enough DPS from this bard to kill this boss perfectly in time, despite us losing our black mage and our healer off the edge. This is just a random pug group, for anybody wondering. It's not like a group of pro friends of mine or anything that I'm expecting great things out of. Oh, I already possess a unique one of those items. So the other thing too is my UI is a little bit different than you're going to see it naturally, although it's very close. The main thing that I've done is I moved my target bar down under my character so I can keep all of those useful pieces of information very close. I made this big obnoxious bar over here which shows me my cooldowns, and then I built a couple of macros to pop some abilities when I want them to, which I found very handy. The other one that's really cool is tab targeting in this game. Just FYI, if you're going to play, it's brutal. You do not want to try and tab target. If you hit tab, like look at this, the Hound Light should be my first target. It picks the Soul Collector. Then it will cycle pretty well, and that tends to work. But if you want the actual closest target, you're going to want to hit this button instead. What that does, and I will show you the actual macro for that, is T enemy. That actually targets the closest enemy. However, it will not cycle. As you can see, it's just going to target the closest enemy. So instead of hitting tab first, which gets you kind of like a random grab bag of whatever you're kind of facing, and it sort of works, but it's not nearly as nice as as it was in WoW, you're going to want to use both of these. It takes 2 buttons basically to macro, or to bind your way to good bindings, but it's totally worth it. Let's hope I don't die. When you're tanking, FYI, as well, it doesn't generate the most threat, but it is worth stunning everything a couple times if you're going to be taking a lot of damage, as it will help the healer, or will alleviate the damage input you're taking and help the healer catch up to you. Unfortunately, though, you will probably lose aggro if you do it on a pull like this. It's kind of just bound to happen. Eventually, you just kind of give up on that one and start trying to build like enough threat on the next mobs that you can go with it. I tend to use this target to mark thing a lot, which I'm clicking right now, unfortunately, because I don't have a keybind set up for it yet. But that sort of helps people in dungeons. A lot of times they still don't listen. It's, again, built over from other MMOs where players are used to unlimited threat generation, where they don't have to ever worry about what they hit. But if they're going to beat both targets down at the same time, I'm going to lose aggro. You need to focus in this game, or you're going to get, something hitting you. However, once it gets low, they can tank the end of the mob pretty easily. Just as long as someone's not tanking the whole pack, they should be okay. And as you can see, this dungeon isn't too long. Now, we started the video on the first boss, which is maybe 5 minutes in, so it's not overly long on there. And if one of the DPS would be so kind to pull the Succubus, you can actually do this without grabbing the rest of the pack. There we go. Succubuses are a little bit annoying too, so it's kind of nice to get them here early. And that actually just reminded me of something else that I find kind of irritating about this game. When mobs are moving, they're extremely difficult to hit. So if you're going to play a melee class, keep that in mind, that when things are moving around, until they kind of come to a stop, it's very, very difficult to hit them. So if someone's running away in this game, it's pretty much impossible to use enough abilities to gain threat on them. So that works for, or I guess that's a good hint for range and melee. If you are moving, you are not going to get any help, so be careful with that. You can use moves while on the move, but it's very, very challenging. I'm not really sure if they're going to fix that. I hope if they add PvP to this game, which I'm very much looking forward to, they will try and resolve that, because I don't want to try and hit people when they're moving in PvP if you can't. It will basically make melee worthless in PvP, although with the current system set up, I don't expect PvP to work very well, so they're probably going to have to do a pretty big overhaul on how moves work, or maybe just build in separate PvP values for everything to kind of balance it out that way, because the current PvE values are just simply not going to cut it. You know what else I've been doing? I've been tanking in Sword Oath, which is probably not a very good idea. Our healer's pretty geared, so we don't need to worry too much, but... Now there's also a cool trick where you can pop this Succubus, this archer knows, and she'll come all the way around here, and you can fight her without having to hit any of these other packs just yet, and this Dularan or Dulahan guy will actually walk over here too, so I'll pull him when he gets here, and then we have the Succubus and the Dulahan, which is not really that rough a pull or anything. If you haven't been able to tell so far too, with the Demon Wall being a good example, the bosses are pretty innovative. They're kind of neat. They usually have a unique feature to them, and I've been just enjoying them through the entire game so far. Even the dungeon bosses leveling up, while they aren't overly difficult, are very cool. There's always like a neat feature, and most of the time I've been looking at these bosses during the leveling process and thinking, wow, they could make this a raid boss and it would be really fun. Something else that I should probably mention is party size. If you haven't noticed yet, it's only 4 players, which at first seemed a little odd to me because I'm used to the 5-player party with 3 DPS, 1 tank, 1 healer. However, this one does 2 DPS, 1 tank, 1 healer, and then as you get into a larger party, you generally get 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 4 DPS, which actually balances out pretty well. Clearly, you can gear your game around pretty much anything, but it's kind of a nice size of party. I like having 8 people. I've heard that the next patch they release is going to have bigger raid instances for people who want the big epic raids, so don't fear if that's something you're looking for. However, I've got to say, I like these small little groups. They're fun, and you feel like you're making a much bigger difference when you're playing like this than you do when you're, got 30 or 40 people with you. However, I won't say that I didn't have a good time playing WoW back in the Molten Core days when there was 40-man raids. As I said, a lot of stuff to dodge. Keep that in mind. I think it's a really cool little mechanic to add to tanking. I think tanking is a very fun role in this game. So I'm very happy with my decision so far, as I'm never too sure if I should pick up a tank or say a DPS or a healing class. I kind of generally like to play a little bit of everything in an MMO, which is kind of nice that you can play multiple characters, but the gearing process will take a little bit too long for me because I'm not exactly chock full of free time at the moment. So we're almost at the end of this. For anybody who's kind of getting a little bored of hearing me ramble about everything and not seeing any cool boss fights, you're going to see one really soon. It's this big type lizard thing, which I will discuss quickly and briefly, as I don't fully understand every feature of the fight because I'm doing it from a tank's perspective. But it shouldn't be too challenging with this group, as these guys are pretty geared and they're doing pretty well so far, except for the little mishap on the wall, not falling off the ground, or falling off the edge and everything. Now, another feature in this game that I think is kind of interesting that deserves a bit of a mention while we're just going through some generic enemy stuff is the Chocobo Companion. I thought this was kind of cool, although it's not overly practical. The Chocobo Companion is something you can actually summon. You use these little glacial greens you can buy from a vendor. They're really cheap, so I just bought 99 at a time, and that was a long time ago. You can see my gil up here is 178,000, so I'm not overly rich at this game. Just for anybody who doesn't know, 175,000 is not that much at level 50. What you can do is you can level them up in these different paths. So you can basically choose what your Chocobo should be. You know, like a healer, a tank, or an attacking Chocobo. As a tank slash healer myself, I decided that the DPS one would probably be most beneficial to me since tank damage is not overly high for leveling up. The problem with the Chocobo though is you can unlock them, I believe, around level 20, maybe 30. I don't know for sure because I just did it at a random level myself. But the issue is that he does steal some of your experience, so that's why it's not overly useful for leveling up, which is pretty much the only time I can see you using it. So that's where I see the flaw coming in. But it is a cool system with a companion, and I hope that they kind of expand on that in the future. Figure if they've got the base there, they'll probably add in different companions, and maybe there'll be a way to use them if you want to create like a custom party, or you know, you can maybe bring your Chocobo and he can actually do something useful. I think it's kind of neat. It's not overly amazingly input at the time, though. I think it's kind of a little weak, but it's a brand new MMO. It's got a lot of things going for it, and it seems to work pretty well. Now, the other side of the game that I personally haven't really experienced too much of yet is the crafting side of the game. So these classes that are all listed that I was talking about are the Disciples of War and Disciples of Magic. However, you have the crafting classes, which are Disciples of Hand and Disciples of Land. So as you can see, I don't have any experience with that yet myself. However, I've spoken to some other people and gotten the basics down. And what you do if you're going to go for the crafting classes is you actually don't need to fight enemies at all. You can run around and, say, mine and level up in that way. You can basically go through all these different crafting things, and you use what's called levies. Oh, we probably shouldn't have pulled all that at once, but we'll be all right. You use what's called levies as one of the better things to save for the crafting classes, I've been told. It's quite useful. However, well, let's just stun her one more time. Now, please, this guy. So you can use what's called levies. Now the way levies work, I think it's this button here, is you get an allowance. So this allowance that you can see for me is 88. So every day I think it adds something like 3, and then you can kind of do that many more levies. So save these up when you're leveling up. They're not overly great for your first character level anyways. They kind of tend to be lower experience quests. And you're going to want to pump those towards some crafting classes if you're interested in that in the future. Or maybe you're just solely interested in the crafting classes, which is really cool because they can kind of play the market and craft up, and you can level up your own character. And I've seen people having a great time with it. It's a very in-depth system. I'm not going to go into it because I don't know it well enough to really truly discuss it at this time. But it lends itself for some really cool items, and crafting is definitely useful. Everybody tends to need a crafter eventually, and even that relic weapon quest I spoke about earlier has somebody, you need a crafting class to attach what's called materia to your equipment. I don't really have any pieces that are sporting any materia at the time, but the way materia works is a lot like gems in World of Warcraft. You affix them to a piece of gear, but you need a crafter to do that. So you can add materia to kind of give yourself a little extra bonus on your gear. It's nothing too huge, and that seems to be how that works. There's also a leveling plus system that, as far as I'm aware, is only on your relic weapon for the time being, which allows you to take your relic weapon and go and buy some stuff with these tomes of mythology, and you spend 900 of those and you can upgrade your relic weapon to a +1 version of it. So that may or may not be implemented on a lot of the further higher leveling gear. We'll have to see as the game progresses. So we're just, as I said, right around the corner. The boss is right in this room now. We're pretty much at the end of the dungeon. I hope this has been a pretty good look at a little bit of Final Fantasy. You can see how the game plays at 50. You can see my amazing mustache tank and my sweet camera angles trying to figure out what's going on as we're running around here. And this is just a pretty standard dungeon. You're going to run this one a lot because right now it's the only real way to get these tomes of mythology. You get about, I believe it's 40 per run in this, and then the other dungeons don't give you any. So this is the place to be for pretty much everyone. You're going to run this a whole lot for the time being. I hope they kind of expand how you can get these tomes in the future. Now let's just see a couple seconds of this, but I don't want to annoy my group too much. But you've also got a lot of cinematics and stuff like this. The story is very well told. I've heard it's fantastic. As I said, I level quickly, so I skipped a lot of it myself. And Some of the cinematics are actually voice acted, but most of them are just purely reading. It's a really cool story, and you go through, you know, I will show you guys very quickly. That's the button I'm looking for. Here's your main scenario quests. There are a lot of them. So that's just how many you're doing purely for story. The story is like the main way you're going to level in this game, and it's very, very cool. A lot of epic Final Fantasy attached to it. I think everybody's going to enjoy that when they actually get to the point of playing it. Now, to tank this boss, for anybody who wants to use this as a mini tutorial to the dungeon, what you do is he has a frontal cone AoE that he does with those laser eyes. You're going to see him pop in a second here probably. And so you need no one needs to be in his face. At the same time, he does a tail slap, which means he's going to basically stomp the whole room behind him. And that tail slap is really wide. There goes the lasers right there. So you want to keep the tail slap away from hitting your party, which end up kind of being positioned over here. And you want to keep the lasers away from hitting them as well. But they also need a spot to go. So what he does is he also does this move that pretty much blows up the whole room. And here it is, imminent catastrophe. So they need to get behind these pillars. So you offer this little spot here basically on his side that's completely safe, and then you can have everybody come in so they can hit him from a long distance since he's not blocked by the pillar, and you are blocked from the middle of the room with this line of sight here that I'm currently drawing with my mouse, and your teammates can go hide behind that pillar or this pillar, whatever is more suitable for them. Then, as you can probably see, there's some ad spawns. You don't actually deal with those as the tank. They don't deal that much damage, so it's easier to just keep the boss position so he doesn't start AoEing everybody. And you let the DPS tank and kill those. These pillars are also going to slowly die, and there will be these little pulsing balls that he'll lay down, I believe pretty close to the bodies, if not right on the bodies of his ads. And those do a lot of damage, so don't stand near them. As a tank, you're really not going to have to worry about that, but as DPS, you might not want to touch those. And then, yeah, so slowly you're going to need to use this pillar as your final place to kind of protect yourself from this boss blowing up the room. And honestly, it's going to look really easy from this pull, but I have failed on this boss more times than I'd like to say. People just do not understand this whole process. For me, it's very simple. I just stand still and hit my buttons, so there's not a whole lot to it. But if you have low DPS, this can be a rough and very long fight. But this is just a good example of like what a regular dungeon mob is like. There's a lot of features to the fight. There's a lot of aspects to it. There's some tail stomp stuff you dodge. There's some pillars you avoid. Sometimes there's a wall that slides at you. They're all very different. The first boss had this like, you know, like zip zap spells. You could dodge around the pillar, and he had these golems he summoned. And I just think it's a really cool game. I think they've done a really good job, and I have no problem promoting it for Square Enix, for those of you who don't know. They've done a really good job. Now, this is actually the remake of Final Fantasy XIV. For anybody who's not aware, Final Fantasy XIV came out and was an absolute disaster. So much so that the company apologized and then rebuilt the entire game. They did a really good job rebuilding the game, and I think they deserve a little bit of recognition for that. I would not suggest buying this for console for anybody who's thinking about that, as there's a lot of issues with limited data not loading all of the characters. So people are having problems with that, and the PC version is also $10 cheaper. It's $30 on PC, $40 on console, and it can be bought pretty much all over the place online. You get a key and a lot of spots. So there we go. I've earned a few more tomes. We've gotten our big boss kill and cleared our dungeon. This is just a really simple dungeon to show a little bit about the game, to give you an idea of what's going on, to talk about all the different cool stuff. You get a nice little cinematic of my sweet mustache midget cheering it on. And that is that. There is a little bit of an intro to Final Fantasy. Let's see if I got any cool loot. Nope, nothing for me this time. And then off you go. You're done. Exit, leave, and you pop back out wherever you're going to go. I'll give you guys one final warning. There's a lot of gold spammers in the game right now. It's probably the most irritating thing about the game. So when you're in a major city, you're going to get a lot of that. You get a couple of tells here and there, but as you can probably tell, nothing too much. And that is the basics. I can get into some more complex, detailed stuff if people are interested in the Final Fantasy videos, or no, maybe nobody really wants to watch them. So we're just going to do this one, and I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy because I find it interesting, and then no one's going to care, and that's going to be the end of it. Just let me know in the comments if there's any questions, concerns, or if you want some more content like this. I hope you guys found it somewhat useful, and it was a decent little intro to the game, and we'll tide you guys over until my very special upcoming Beyond Technical stuff that I have on the horizon. So Appreciate it. Please subscribe on YouTube and follow on Facebook and or Twitter or whatever social media you prefer to get Beyond Technical updates. The show focuses on a lot of different games, but primarily a big chunk of my crowd is Street Fighter content and tutorial-based content. You can go check out some of the older videos if you're interested in seeing some of the stuff I've done, and keep your eyes peeled for newer videos. As I said, if Final Fantasy is something people want to hear about, I will make some videos. If not, I'll just play it on my own and make some more videos about Street Fighter and stuff. That'll be coming soon. Big stuff on the way. Hope to be able to tell you guys about it soon. See you next time.